we're sitting here with Clayton Cardenas. And Clayton and I go back to the beginning, at least the beginning of his acting career. And it's very cool sitting down with you at this point in your career. And a lot of your fans know you as Angel. Angel Reyes from the Mayans MC on FX. We just wrapped season 2 and got picked up for season 3.
Yes.
Now getting the news, even like going back to season 1, getting the news that you got picked up for season 2, now getting the news that we got picked up for season 3. I mean, even though you might have confidence that that might happen, it doesn't happen until it happens.
Sure, I mean, I remember the first pilot, because we did 2 pilots. Before the first pilot, we're like, 7 years for sure, just like Sons.
Yeah.
And then we got word that like, oh, they got to redo the pilot. And we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Everybody pumped the brakes.
Yeah.
And so it kind of turned this majority of us on the cast into like this hyper-focus mode. I'm like, all right, we really have to center in on the work.
Well, that sounds like a good thing.
It was a good thing. I think that was a good little kick in the butt, you know?
And it's like, you know, I try to say in my studio all the time, you book a series like this, you have to sign a contract. That contract has how much money you're going to make for the next 7 years.
Right.
And then what if you get fired? What if the show gets canceled?
It's deflating, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, it's the only job in the world that you know how much you would have made.
Right.
And now you're watching TV. Like if you get fired or replaced, you're watching TV and you're watching somebody else, and you know exactly how much they're making and know exactly how much you're not making.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, to be a part of the original cast and then to be, you know, killed or fired right after the first season.
Yeah.
You know, that's a gut punch.
That's a gut punch. And in the Mayans case, it was even worse because you actually shot 2 pilots, so somebody could have got fired before you even shoot the pilot.
Yeah.
And that's after they signed the contract.
Well, I mean, it happened to the president of the club, and that was an actor named, everybody, I'm sure a lot of the people in here know him, John Ortiz.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think, like, how does John Ortiz, how does, like, probably the best actor in this room get let go?
Well, not this room, but if it was a room that you wasn't in,
True.
I'm sorry. I'm excited to be with you, man.
I know, man. I appreciate
okay,
it.
we'll continue.
I appreciate it. So, I mean, we kind of were, I mean, our jaws hit the floor, and a lot of us were like, what the F? And you see an actor like of that caliber get let go, it kind of, you know, kind of get your ears pointed out. And now you're like, wow, nobody's safe.
Yeah.
And if somebody like that I put on such a pedestal can be let go, how good am I? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's always that, I think it installed a little fear, but I think that fear was needed to really have that focus.
Yeah,
being sharp.
especially on like an ensemble cast where like you're working with your peers, everyone's in the same boat. There's probably like at some point you guys are getting along and it's like fun, it becomes fun, which is a dangerous thing.
That is a dangerous, I mean, there's definitely a familial bond that's created because you're doing, you know, 15 hours with these guys, 12, 15 hours, and you know, you're there every day and you know them better than your family, and then to lose somebody like that, you've definitely, and it's interesting, like I meet a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time and there's like, they're calloused to it. And I don't ever want to become like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it does happen.
Yeah, and it's like when you shot the original pilot, it was a while ago. People don't even realize how long ago. It was like, what, 4 years, 3 years ago?
3 years?
Yeah.
2017, 16, 17?
That's right, yeah. And so they moved you all up to where, like Santa Clarita?
Santa Clarita.
And you guys stayed together like for...
Well, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, we were spending a lot of time with each other up there.
And which is a good thing because you need that bond, you need that chemistry, of course, but at the same time, it's like you start relaxing a little bit and you know, not that that's what happened to some actors. I mean, a lot of times the story just changes and your character doesn't fit in anymore.
Well, I think that's what happened to John Ortiz.
Yeah,
his character, his voice didn't really resonate with being the president of the club. The actor they did replace him with, Michael Irby, had all that.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, like, you know, Michael came in and we're like, man, who's this dude? You know,
Yeah. Because you're already protected.
We're already protected with John.
Yeah.
But then you see Michael do his thing and you hear his voice and you're like, oh.
That's it.
The people up there know a lot more than I know.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, that's why they're up there.
That's why they're up there,
Yeah.
right.
For the most part.
For the most part, right.
But, and then it's like, now you have to shoot the pilot over again.
Right.
Which is very rare, man. I work with actors that book pilots, but Mayans MC coming off the heels of Sons of Anarchy, that probably helped that dynamic.
Oh, the momentum.
This has to work, man. This
Right.
has to work. So, which is probably why, like, so you got a whole new set of notes, character changes, storylines, plot points that are changing, and now we shoot it again.
Yeah. Well, I think that it played into my advantage because, nobody knew who I was. People still don't know who I am. But like, that pilot allowed the writers and the creators the first pilot, like, oh, this dude has some chops.
Right.
We can write for him.
Interesting.
We can write for him more now. So that, for me, it played out to my advantage. Also, it got me more comfortable on set.
Yeah.
This is still my second show.
Yeah.
But like, and I still needed that time on set to feel comfortable. I didn't even know what 10-1 meant. I had no idea.
Did you ever have to do a 10-1?
Everybody's got a 10-1, man. And 10-2. There's a couple.
10-2? You got a 10-2 moment?
No.
We'll talk about that.
No,
later.
there's no need to talk about that.
We'll
No.
talk again.
But yeah.
But so it worked in your advantage. It's amazing how the universe works sometimes, where it's like the same thing that you're probably scared the shit out of you, and the same thing that made you like, oh my God, actually helped you in a lot of ways that you probably don't even realize until looking back now.
Yeah, I mean, but I do firmly believe in that, being eternally optimistic and knowing that everything is working out and everything is happening for a reason.
Yeah.
If you hold steady to that belief, there's no stopping you.
That's right. And there's just so many things that are out of our hands.
Right.
Just not as just actors, but whatever, as human beings, it's out of our hands. And too many people try to control their lives, the aspects of their lives that have nothing to do with them. There's nothing you can do.
No, I mean, the only thing that I can control are my thoughts and my actions.
That's right. That's the only things you really
the
own.
rest is, you're right, as you're saying, it is out of your hands, and you just have to believe that, certain things happen to you for a reason, like you said, and certain people come into your life for a reason, whether it be, to teach you something or for you to understand something differently. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And they might not even remember you,
Oh,
even
no.
though
Right.
you might. Well, that's what you and I talk about all the time. Now, you right now, Clayton right now, is in a position where you could touch and move a lot of people and never meet them. You could live to be 1,000 years old and never realize who you saved or touched or helped. Like people like you're in that kind of position. We'll talk about that in a minute. But getting back to now, all of a sudden we're in a position where you feel comfortable. They're shooting the pilot over again. You do have the guys that are on the set that you feel comfortable with. But then there's people that you knew even before, like Richard you knew before. That's a trip being on the set with him. That must have helped.
It helped in the sense that I just had something familiar to, like, it was almost like a safety blanket. I had somebody to talk to if I didn't feel comfortable. I had somebody to lean on if I needed that. But honestly, the person right away that person for me was JD.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about JD
Sure.
because, I mean, obviously I don't know JD like I know Richard,
Right.
you know what I mean? And a lot of times you see chemistry on camera and then you wonder, is that chemistry real? Do these guys really get along? Do they feel that way? And a lot of people might not know that. I'm sure you get that question all the time.
All the time.
You and JD, man, I say this in class too.
Yeah.
There's only so much you could fake. Like, there's only so much you could act.
Right.
That gotta be real, man. Talk to me about that relationship.
It's interesting. Like, I think, but from the beginning, I think there was a conscious effort on both our ends to be like, all right, we should probably make this work. Honestly, I think that's how it began.
Yeah.
It began with like, do we want it to run as long and as deep as Sons? Okay, this relationship has to work, even if we have our differences. But as time progressed, we found we had a lot more similarities than differences.
Mm-hmm.
And, he did become, in essence, like a big brother to me. He has been in the game for, 20-something years. So when I had technical questions, I could always go to him and not feel stupid asking that question. And that was big. That was big,
Yeah, because
man.
he's not going to judge you. He's just going to talk to you.
And
about
he never made me feel judged. And he never talked down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a huge swing in momentum for me, really progressing quickly.
Yeah. And now moving forward, you and JD, I mean, you guys seem inseparable, man.
We text almost every day. We
Yeah.
talk every other day or whatnot. He's a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, and I'm a huge Oakland Raiders fan. So there's a good.
You don't want to talk about football.
I don't want to. No.
I don't like. You really want to go
I
there?
don't want to go down
fine.
that road, man. But no, that what you see is real. You know, and that's why it works. I think that's why the show works, is because you see stuff that you cannot fake, man.
The show is about that.
Yeah.
The show is about a brotherhood, and if the audience would be able to see that from a mile away, that it's not really a brotherhood. Even if the actors were great and the acting was great, if the chemistry's not there, like subliminally, the audience would be like, "I'm not buying this, man. I'm not. Buying.
I'm checking out.
I'm checking out." And they don't. Most of the times, audiences don't even realize why they're checking out. It's just, so I just never got into that show. You ever watch a show, you see a few ups, I don't know why.
For sure.
And even though the acting's good, even the story could be well written, well acted, recognizable names, even stars, celebrities, whatever. There's no guarantee that it's going to work.
Right.
The chemistry is everything, man. And now coming into 2 seasons later, we get picked up for season 3. Now you know what you could do. It's like being in a relationship. It's almost like you're in a relationship for 3 years now. You start clicking, where it's like you start finishing each other's sentences, and it's you don't have to use as many words. It's just like, all right, you got me, I got you. What the hell's going on here? And is that going on now?
Oh, for sure. I think definitely. I think the nonverbal communication is definitely present with JD and myself. And there's moments and scenes where we just automatically know to just look at each other. Yeah. We just you start to feel that vibration, and you could feel, like you're saying, nonverbal communication. I can feel when it's time to interact with him without words. You know what I mean? Like that's cool.
A special thing.
That's a special thing, man. And I don't have that. That's probably the only person on set that I have that with right now. Another really cool dynamic is not only just the 2 brothers, but the father too, that has 2 grown men that he's trying to take care of in a way and watch out for, but he's got his own problems. Edward James Olmos, man, working with a guy like that, I'm sure at the beginning well, you tell me, how was it at the beginning and how is it now that you've worked with him for a while? In the beginning, it was I was nervous the very first time. And I just said this in another interview. And I think he kind of picked up on it in rehearsal.
Oh, really?
And he came over and he's like, "You're in the same room as me." And then he fucking walked out.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to interpret that at first, right? I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, he's your peer now.
Yeah, that's what I got.
He's not the guy from American Me that got stabbed 100 times and fallen off the balcony. He's not that guy anymore. He's your father now.
Yeah. He and also learned to really command a set from him. If you're in that position as an actor, you should take advantage of it. And that's what I learned from him. And not to feel threatened by these cameras, and these boom mics and these people standing in the background. No, this is about you. You're the one that's making this all work. So if you don't feel comfortable in the moment, stop the moment. Yep. Compose yourself, and go at it again.
And does he ask permission to do it, or does he just do it?
He'll be like, "Hey, we're gonna shoot this first."
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
And I say this all the time in class. It's like, if you're not gonna control the moment, you're the one. The camera's facing you. You got to control the moment.
Right.
And if you don't, who's gonna control it? You can't ask permission sometimes. You just got to do. Yeah. You got to trust yourself and just say, okay, this is what I'm feeling inside. You're the only one that is feeling that. Right. So if you're not true to that feeling inside, how could you expect them to be true to it?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you have to feel fully empowered to give your best performance.
That's exactly my point. And and I also say something that what y'all talk about right now is these people are your peers. If you're going to be a working actor, you have to realize that you're not a civilian anymore, and you're doing the exact same thing that they are doing. They're not these big, magical, mystical creatures that you see on TV or when you go to the movies. They're doing exactly what you're doing. You have to really wrap your mind around that. Otherwise, you're not going to give your best true self.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. But it's something you have to learn. I could say it a million times in class, and you probably heard me say that a million times in class. But still, you show up on set. Like for instance, the first day of American Crime. Now you have to learn on your own. There's nothing I could have said as your coach for all those years that could have 100% prepared you for this.
Yeah.
And so now, what was that like? Now we're talking about the first time you were ever on a set, period.
Well, first of all, like you said, you can't replicate being on set.
Yeah. Anywhere.
Anyway, you
No
can't.
matter
You
what.
cannot. You just have to live it. You have to go through it. Like that's the only way you'll really understand that. So with knowing that, my first day on American Crime, I called the producers, and I'm supposed to film on a Wednesday, and it was Tuesday. I'm like, can I come to set today? I just, I've never, Richard has doing this accent. I want to try to match his accent. And they're like, they didn't call me back, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And like, they finally called me back a couple hours later, and they were like, hey, we can't pay you. Like, we can't.
They were more worried.
They were worried about that. Like,
Yeah.
I had, and that was nowhere in my realm of thinking, man. I was just so nervous. I wanted to just like, go to school the day early just so I could feel comfortable and know where I'm going.
The lay of the land.
The lay of the
and
land,
everything.
man.
Yeah.
And so I did it, and I show up, and I don't even know, like, I don't even know where to sit. So I'm watching Richard. I'm literally standing right next to where they're shooting in the scene, and they're like, no, you have to get out of here.
Get out
What
of
the
the
hell
way,
are you
man.
doing here, man? Because I'm watching it like it's a play. So they had to
yeah.
pull me, sit me in this chair, and no, man, I was really nervous. But luckily, there were moments where I was able to compose myself, like I was saying earlier, and really be in the scene. But still, man, a lot of American Crime, I was still in my head. American Crime is really hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
Because I'm still not comfortable in my skin.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're seeing that. Nobody else is seeing that. I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's real.
Right.
If you see it, it's real.
Right.
But you'll be surprised that nobody else sees that.
Right.
And that's a huge lesson to be learned as well, that the stories that we tell ourselves in our mind are not always real.
Right.
They're real to you, but the only problem with having stories in your mind that are not real is if you follow those stories instead of fighting them off. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you let them influence you going in the future.
Exactly.
Right.
And that just comes with experience, like you're talking about. There's nothing you could do about that. We've done scenes in class and we worked it out and all that stuff. That could prepare your craft and maybe your confidence, but until they put a giant camera on you and that camera represents 40 million people, you don't know how you're going to react.
No, and I think it was just honestly the beginning of this season where I should take that back. I would think heading towards the end of last season where I stopped seeing everything else.
Yeah,
it was just
around.
This.
Could quiet the noise.
It was just that, and that was such an empowering moment. I was like, oh, you cannot stop me now.
Yeah,
like there's nothing that can stop.
That's right.
me.
You've told me this after you started working, and we had conversations, and I would ask you questions like, when we were working out in class, like, what did you learn the most? You hear me say in class, you'll know when you turn a corner in your craft. That sometimes it's one moment. You'll do a scene and it's like, boom. And then I see it all the time. Wow, that actor was never the same after that moment. And I saw it a few times with you, to be honest with you. But you pinpointed a particular thing that really is like, and then from that point on, with your listening skills.
Oh yeah, I mean that was huge because, like a lot of beginning actors, you're so worried about memorizing the words.
What you're gonna say.
What you're gonna say.
Yeah.
So like, I could be staring in your eyes while you're talking, but all I'm thinking about is like what I'm gonna say next. And and you look like a deer. Like And so once I was able to just listen,
that's right,
and not be in such a hurry to speak, now I could. And it was a process. It didn't just go straight to just listening. It was like, now I'm listening while you're talking. Okay, now after you're done talking, now I can think about what I'm going to say.
You got to process it first.
Yeah.
Just like you do in real life.
Sure. Yes, but now the process is even quicker now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I could, on purpose, take these breaks longer, or I could speed it up. It's whole art. It's an art.
And it takes time, and you have to grow. Yep. The best thing you could do in your craft is put yourself in a position where you are being challenged. You're growing every single day. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. These things don't happen on their own. You have to be in a position where it could possibly happen. I remember you saying, it's like, wow, I'm not worried so much about the lines. I'm not worried so much about what they're saying, and you started listening to not just what the other person was saying, but you were listening to their body language. And now what you learned is to feed off of one another. And that, coming back to the chemistry that you have with JD, that's a great way to describe that unspoken feeling. You know what I mean? Where I'm not even looking at him and I'm feeling him. You guys are in a scene together. It just doesn't look it because you're not going back and forth with words. But that's what chemistry really is. You know, if I had to really narrow down to what is chemistry, because people ask me all the time. Everyone thinks chemistry is sexuality, like a sexual thing. And when you say, yeah, me and
so-and-so of chemistry.
Exactly. It's like, wow, that's kind of weird. That's not what chemistry is. Chemistry is trust. Chemistry is just feeling comfortable, just like a real relationship.
Right.
And that's listening, you know? Like, you're listening to me right now, I'm listening to you right now, but I'm also reading your body language, I'm also feeling your energy. That's what human beings do in real life. That's listening, you know? And that takes time. Even when you realize listening to what they're saying is important, it still takes time after that to say, wow, it's even more than that.
Right. You know, that lesson that I learned to listen, it was interesting because I started doing it in everyday life.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Everything changed, man. And I was like, oh, this is art. This isn't acting. This is like, this translates into every aspect of life.
It's humanity.
It's humanity.
That's right.
And I don't put these labels of, you know, being an actor or an artist. It's just humanity. Like you're
That's
saying.
right, exactly. And to segue into empathy. Not judging your character, you know, Angel, Easy, in the gang, in the season finale right there, like the bad thing you guys are doing, you know. I don't want to spoil alert anybody, but it's easy to judge characters sometimes. You have to find an empathy for the humanity of the character. It goes back to what we were just saying about listening. It's all about humanity. Like listening and empathizing, if you could accomplish that, then every story is going to be different. Every script you ever get is going to be different. Every story is going to be different. Every character is going to be different. But they'll all have that.
Right.
They'll all have the humanity.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Like, I don't even, because you instilled that in me so early on, I don't ever judge, like, so early on that, like, that doesn't even cross my mind to judge a character. I automatically look for that. It's just automatic. It's not even a thing.
That's cool because I do want to talk about when you started in the studio. Yeah. You ready to talk about that?
Yeah.
So it's really cool. I remember this like it was yesterday, man, because it wasn't just a special moment for you, which I'm sure it was, but it was a special moment for me because I learned a lot about an impact I could have on another human being as their coach or as anything, a mentor. And I never really, like, even though I was coaching for a long time and teaching acting for a long time, it wasn't until I saw the impact that it could have on someone like you that I really realized the responsibility, I guess. Yeah. You know, I can't really find the word, but that I need, you know, and that's something that I never got, you know, and so. Do you want to tell the story through your
through my eyes? View? I think they've heard it through mine, but I'll say it again. Yeah. I was unknowingly taken to your studio.
Yeah. So you weren't looking for an acting studio?
No.
No. You weren't even looking to be an actor, or?
No. You know what? No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I knew at that time in life, I knew what I was doing wasn't good, and the people I was associated with weren't good. I knew that I had to figure something out in my life, like what I was, like there was no future in it. I knew that I was, you know, at my last end, honestly. And so I was taken into your studio from a bar. I was just out, you know, I was drunk and I was still like in my addictions. And I remember going into your studio, getting pulled into your studio. First of all, I'm going up the stairs to your old studio. And I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't this girl's house. Like, I thought I was going to this girl's house. It's crazy, right? Jeez. And I remember, so I'm like, and then I'm going into your studio, and I don't know, I have no idea what to expect. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little weirded out by these people. But then I see these people, these actors, emote freely. I saw these people emote freely, and I saw these people watching them not judge them. I saw these people not laugh at them. I heard them applauding these people. I had never, ever been in an environment like that in my life. That changed everything, man. I was like, holy shit, man. Like, this is something that I can get into, I think. So I was kind of excited, you know? And then I remember the class ended, and you asked me to come in your office, and you said, look, I know what you're on, man. You know, you said I can't have that in my studio. I know I'm here. I need to protect my students. So this excitement from me took a fucking nosedive, right? And I remember I left your office and I was walking down the stairs, and then you said, hey, you called me back up into your office, and you were like, look, man, you remind me of myself. And I remember you took a beat, and you said, I teach a class 5 days out of the week. I want you here every day. And that was it, man. Like that, somebody not giving up on me because of what I was going through in the moment, that was so needed. You know, that was so needed on my end. And that's how we got started.
Yeah, man. And the same thing from my perspective. It was like, I turned the corner that day too, and I was like, you know, how could I give up on somebody that reminded me of myself? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what kind of man would I be? What kind of mentor would I be if I just threw this guy out because he was high? And the reason why I knew is because, man, your behavior was exactly like my behavior when I was probably around your age at the time. And we're going back, you were in, what, your mid-20s maybe?
Yep.
And that's when the height of my addiction was there. And I'm like, this is an important moment. That's when I called you back. I was like, no. You come tomorrow. And I think I might have even said, even if you're high.
No, you did. I remember you saying that.
Just come anyway.
Yeah. And there were times where I was high. Yeah. And I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah, no, I did. I saw it.
I mean, there was times where, like, I remember you, like, you were talking to the class, and I'm sure I was dozing off, and you spotted me, and I saw, like, a recognizable look. Yeah. And I felt so ashamed. Yeah. But then at the same time, so grateful that you weren't, you know, kicking me out. No. Like, it was even though I was still struggling, like, it was still a safe environment for me, and I needed that because I did not have that, you know?
And I was just like, if Clayton comes back every day, then I'll help him and look after him every day. If he stops coming, it's out of my hands. And that's how I justify it. That's how I made peace. I'm not gonna go looking for him, you know what I mean? Right. But if he comes like I invited him to, then I got him. I got him. I don't give a fuck if he's high or drunk. It doesn't matter, because I wish somebody had done that to me, you know? And it took me a lot of years after that. And then little by little, and it took a while for you to actually get up and start doing things. And
about 6 months.
Yeah. So for 6 months, you would come and look, it's this. And then I would just check in. Right. How you doing today? Right. At that point, everything that needed to be said was said. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't have to tell you every day, oh, you high. We knew. We both knew. Yeah. You see what I mean? And then 6 months, you were still there. And you're watching, you're learning. Your eyes got a little bit brighter every day. You were able to be awake, not just physically, but emotionally every day. And I could see that you were inspired by some of the people in class, like specifically. And then you started getting up, and I was like, all right. And I know, okay, this is another turning point. He's gonna get up. Can he get knocked down and then get up again? Can he embarrass himself and then get back up? Like, now I'm like, all right, this is on him now. And you did. I mean, you did some things, silly things, weird things like we do in the foundation class.
that
really
was
weird stuff. And I know you hated it.
I hated it.
But you did it. Like you did it.
That, I mean, I stress this on all of your new actors to do that. Was it Wednesday or Thursday?
It was the foundation class.
The foundation class. I stress that heavily. Being able to laugh at yourself, that is huge in this industry.
So going to someone that's just starting an acting class, well, it's just starting my acting class, that's the biggest advice you would give?
That's the big. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. You have to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable. You have to be able to do this weird shit and, you know, acting like
I had you as caveman.
Caveman, apes, and like
a baby.
It's the whole
now all of a sudden baby.
Yeah.
Now would you think 6 months before that you would be on the floor in front of 30 people like a baby?
Never, ever. In front of people?
Yeah.
Hell no.
And they're doing it too.
And they're doing the same shit? Hell no. What am if I were to walk in to see that, I'm fucking out of here, man. Getting the fuck out of here.
It's crazy.
No, but it was so, you know, I needed that because I had never gone to that extreme.
Yeah.
But once I got comfortable with that, you realize like, essentially, it is teaching you to be comfortable in your own skin. And once I was comfortable in my own skin, that's when I didn't need the numbing drugs anymore, you know, and the alcohol. And so I just had to get comfortable with being this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the thing, see, here's what I saw in you, that you just needed somewhere to go that wasn't that.
Yep.
You see what I mean? And fuck, man, this is tough for me, man. This is tough for me. Like, I don't know what to say right now. And you, it's hard to put in words.
Yeah, I know.
You feel what I'm saying?
I do know.
That is just a Band-Aid anyway. Like, what people don't understand about addiction is that's not the problem. It just seems like the problem. It seems like the problem because that's like could ruin your life. And that leads to that leads to that, but it's not the problem. The problem is within yourself. And once you realize that that's the truth, then that not only do you not need that anymore, it becomes silly. It's like
it's so silly. It becomes, you know, I was actually on the drive over here thinking about it. I was like, well, why? And even today, I'm like, I have no wanting for any of that. Like, that doesn't seem fun to me. Yeah. You know, I was like, I'm so confident in myself now. Yeah. That seems like a cop-out.
Yeah, because that was never the problem in the first place. The problem was the confidence. The problem was knowing who you are, and the problem was the confusion and the embarrassment of your day-to-day life that you were trying to mask. Once that got healed, you didn't need any mask. Right. And now it's like these drugs, they didn't even make sense. No. They made sense at the time.
At the time.
And so you just gave advice to young actors, particularly the young actors in my studio, but you know, what advice would you give to a young boy, a young girl that's going through this? Or not even young. This young has got nothing to do with it, as you know. There's people that are addicted their entire lives. What advice would you give there from someone that has recovered?
For me, I had to take there's a stigma against addiction that like you have to just stop addiction. And when I looked at it like that looked like such a huge mountain for me to climb. Yeah. When I understood that I didn't have to get rid of the addictive energy. I could shift it into something positive. Yeah. That's all I did. It's just, I'm the same. I got the same habitual addictive thoughts, but it's translated into my art now. And once I found that outlet, I was unstoppable. Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that people don't understand. A lot of times it's a personality thing. A lot of times it is hereditary. A lot of times it's the situation that you're in, the community that you were raised in. But at the end of the day, it's in your heart, you know, and you stay true to your heart. Now, all of a sudden, you're addicted to something positive and something that is feeding you. Mm-hmm. And now you can't live without that, which is a healthy thing. Healthier at least. Sure. You know.
Yeah, I'm not claiming I'm this healed, poster boy for sobriety. Yeah. You know, I found what works for me, and everybody, you know, they feel like they're in a hole and there's no way out. There's always a way out.
Always.
There's always a way out. You just have to, when the time comes, you have to be ready for it.
Yeah, and you and I were addicted to the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was an opioid thing, and which is why I saw your behavior. And the thing about that is, you know, they say they're painkillers, and they don't just kill the pain in your body; they kill the pain in your emotional life, and that's what I needed to kill. You know,
Right.
because it was just out of control, and I didn't trust it.
Yeah, and I mean that's why, you know, in that sense, art is so beautiful because I had so many emotions that I did not know what to do with.
Right.
So I felt like I had to numb them, right, with the alcohol and the opioids and all that. And but like what I've real like it serves me like, so now that I'm off all that, like it's just a floodgate. So, and I'm able to, I know how to use it now within my acting, and it's working out to my advantage.
Yeah,
you know?
and everyone just has to find their floodgate and find what works for them. But I'm telling you, man, it takes balls, man. You have to be very, very brave to be able to do that. And whether you have a mentor or not or whatever, it's just a situation that you find yourself in. A lot of people get tapped on the shoulder with someone or something or life that is going to help them, and they just ignore it. You know what I mean? And then a lot of people turn around, and they turn their back on the problem, and they walk forward that way, but not everyone does that. And to me, that's a sad thing, because I could just see, man, you know, that it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you could be in trouble right now. You could be dire straits. You could be like, you know, as low and as rock bottom as you possibly can, but there is hope. Your heart is still beating. Your heart is still beating. And you need to understand that if there's one beat, then there could be two beats, you know? And then your heart continues to beat. It is a choice. You know, you can choose to go. It's difficult.
Right.
You know?
And again, like I can only speak from my own experience and what worked for me. And it was art. And it was having somebody like you. And it was me choosing the people that I hung around. And it was me choosing to put myself in situations that would not harm myself. And so it's a lot of a co-creative thing in a sense, but again, I emphasize art so much because, you know, art was not around my household growing up. Art was looked as something that was not cool, you know, very unmanlike. And so I had a negative stigma of it growing up. But once I saw what it could do for me, healing me on the inside, you know, now I fully put art on a pedestal. So, you know, for somebody struggling with the addiction of any sort, you know, finding an artistic outlet is another way to do it.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, the way I call it is storytelling. You know what I mean? The art of storytelling is very, very powerful because you could tell your story, and that could help you open up those gates. You know, the floodgates like you're talking about. If I could tell my story and you're listening to my story, then I mean sometimes that's the only thing, because you just feel like people can't see you and you feel like you
want to
don't
be
have a
heard.
voice.
And that's such a good point you said that, because that's exactly what happened for me. I didn't feel heard, and I felt like I had a story to tell. So started with personal story, started with spoken word. I was like, oh, I could tell my own personal story.
You see, if the sun went right and not left, you might even say that I was you. Mira, does my width offend you? You see, I wasn't always like these. Pinche cabrón, desgraciado. That was his father, Leonard de la Cruz. Maria was his wife, but most of the time, tequila. Lay closer in the night.
Oh, people like this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's being received well?
Yep.
Oh, okay. And then it progressed into painting. Oh, I could tell a story through this. Oh, and it feels good when I do it. And it's a selfish thing. It feels good.
It is. The word selfish gets a bad rap.
It gets a bad rap.
You
but
have to take
You
care
have
of
to be
yourself.
selfish.
You do.
You know, and
You
it
do.
gets a bad rap from, you know, generations of people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not with us not doing what they want to do.
That's
you know,
right.
so
Yeah,
interesting stigma.
but that's not the definition of selfish. That's just the way it's been used in society.
For sure.
That's really not what it means. You're looking out for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to do that.
Right.
And I hear what you're saying. And now you're a storyteller, and I would recommend that as a means of rehabilitation.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
anytime. I live by this every day.
Well, I see it happening in, you know, Homeboy Industries.
Yeah.
You know, you see Richard and another co-star of ours, Joseph Lucero, who you've coached a couple times.
Who I coached too.
Yeah. You know, you hear them go tell their stories and, you know, show their art, and you see, you know, you see the fellas and the girls in there starting to paint and do poetry, and it's like, wow, man.
And they just seem differently.
You're right, and they see it differently, and when they see people like themselves that came up in the same environment doing it and being heralded for it, and you know, being on TV for it, that's a spark.
That's right, and that's why I started Hippo Life. Yeah. It's rehabilitation through the arts. It's art therapy because it saved my life. It saved your life, and I know that it works. So moving on to now you're in class and you're working out things. Do you remember something in particular right in class where it's like a character, a story, that kind of thing?
Yeah, man, motherfucker with a hat.
Stephen Adley Gerges.
Stephen Adley Gerges, man. That was so
he's my favorite.
Freeing for me. Oh, Gerges is the man.
Well, it's funny too because I remember introducing Gerges to Richard and then introducing it to you, and I just know, man, I was just like, all right, watch. Yeah. I'm just gonna, and then I just sat back. Yeah.
It was so freeing.
Yeah.
I felt so free doing that. Yeah. And
because you can relate to the stories, you can relate to the characters. And that's art. It's like, you know, it's like when you see yourself in a character, in a story, it's powerful.
Right.
And this is so motherfucker with a hat.
Oh man, that was beautiful. Yeah. And like, I remember just wanting to do Gerges. And then it turned.
You could do Gerges every day.
Yeah, then I could do Gerges every day. And then it turned into doing Miguel Piñero. You know, I want to do all Piñero now.
Yep.
You know, short eyes, you know.
Exactly. And I remember you doing all those things in class. I'd be like, try this, try that, you know, read this, read that. And it's like, oh man. And then at some point I was just like, all right, he's off and running. And now at that point, I go from teacher to coach. Mm-hmm. When I see my actors, like I saw in you, go from actor to artist, then I have to make the adjustment as their mentor, and I have to go from teacher to coach, because they still need a teacher, but I would rather them teach themselves. I would rather them learn the lessons themselves, because now, especially people with addictive personalities, I can't have you being addicted to me as your coach, because that now I failed you as your coach if I did that, you know? Right. If you could say, wow, I could do all these beautiful things as long as Anthony's there, then I failed you. You know what I mean? Right. And I couldn't do that to you. I don't do that to my actors. So now I'm coaching. Now all they have to do is read this. What do you think? Good. And you come to me, read anything? You want to work on something in class? Mm-hmm. And you're like, yeah, what about this? What about that? I was reading that. I saw that. And then at that point, all I have to do is give you the stage. And now this is like, you know, without any religious connotations, this is our church. Mm-hmm. This is where we go, you know, to open up. And that's a special thing that I always wanted to accomplish in my studio. Yeah. I wanted to be able to for the world to know what the future of Hollywood looks like, because I always felt like my studio was the future of Hollywood. So I started this like talk show thing, and episode 1, I invited Richard to be the guest, and I was like, he's the perfect guest. He started getting some success. He was a recognizable face. He's like a he's like a son to me, you know. And I'll get to you in a second too. But I was like, all right, the way I wanted to do it is I have a guest and then an actor doing their thing, like a monologue or a scene. And I was like, I need to get the perfect actor to work on this episode. And it was a no-brainer with you. I was like, I'll get Clay. and I'll put Clayton and Richard in touch with each other. We did Stephen Adley Gerges, we did Den of Thieves, Flacco, and I know that going back in the day, years earlier, that was Richard's epiphany.
Aha moment.
So, and then you guys started getting along and whatever. And I remember my favorite moment, I think like, if you ask me what one of my favorite moments was in the last 10 years, like I'm not even kidding, because I had a lot of great moments. It was, you just finished your monologue, it was the Flacco monologue, which is a great monologue. And I designed the show like that my guest, in this case Richard, critiques the actor. So I'm like, I sat back. I remember he was sitting right next to me. And I was like, Richard, Flacco, there's Clayton right there. And he got up, and you were sitting right there. It might have even been that chair. And he gave you a note. Do you remember the note?
I don't.
Oh man, he was just like, cause you were in it, man. It's a very intense monologue. It's a very intense moment. And he was trying to say like, you got to go deeper. And he saw something deeper in you. And I was like, I'm getting out of their way, man. This is a fire. If I get too close, I'm gonna get burned. And you felt it, man. And Richard was just like, that guy's right there. He's calling you a piece of shit. He thinks he should live and you should die. Tell Paul why you should live. And he walks away. And you're like.
So how I feel that we're gonna adjust this right now, we're gonna start from the beginning. And in the beginning, Paul tells you you're pretty much a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Put your hands behind it. I'm gonna tell you a few words, and we're gonna start it. Because right from the beginning, you're proud to be saying this shit. Che Guevara, fucking Malcolm X. How long have you been thinking of that?
Years, man.
Years. So you tell them right now, it's fucking. I've been thinking about this shit for years, motherfucker, and now it's fucking more power. It's that power, It's and this is your last shot. This is your last shot. Your last words, as we said. So I'm gonna give you. Pause in the beginning. Paul pretty much tells you, Flacco, you ain't shit, motherfucker. You deserve to die, and I don't, cause you ain't shit. Everything that you have amounted hasn't been shit, motherfucker. Why should you live? You have no fucking, you have no reason to fucking live. Tell Paul why you should live. He's calling you a piece of shit.
You ever go to the horse track?
Yeah.
It reminded me, when the gates open and the horse is just like bump.
Right.
It reminded me of that moment. And it just seemed like he just opened up a gate for you and you were just like, boom. And I just love that moment. And that was like one of the first experiences you had with Richard, right? I know you met him before.
Yeah. But
it wasn't
that's
the first
that's
meeting.
our old story. But yeah, that was my first time. You meet Richie. That's all fire.
Yeah.
That's all fire.
It's
And that was
fire
like
all
my
the time.
first encounter getting burnt.
Yeah.
By the flames. I was like, oh man. I was like, wow, this dude is intense.
Yeah,
man.
the dude's intense.
But it sparked something in me. He kind of like a crash course in forcing me to really think deeper in the moment.
Yep.
Feel something. It was a shock.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that, man.
Yep.
I get embarrassed watching that video sometimes.
Yeah,
because I was so
I know.
new and like.
I know, but see, it's you can't take it out of context, man. It is what it is. It was. I wanted to be the future of Hollywood. This is where, like, the seeds get planted and the plants and the trees and the beautiful fruit start to grow.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I mean, I understand what you're saying. And you've come so far, but it's cool to see your growth, And it was just a cool moment, and it was one of my proudest moments. It really was.
Yeah, I'm sure it's through your lens. I could see it being like, that's.
But I see it through
No,
your
yeah,
lens.
I know.
No, I do.
But me thinking about it through your, like, that is cool,
Yeah.
actually, and to see where it's gone now, like, that is
man.
cool.
Now,
That's cool.
Now on a Tuesday night, I have class on Tuesday night, but I have it on the DVR, and I'll come home and I'm watching TV, and you and Richard are together on TV. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's got to be cool,
It's
man.
the craziest thing,
Yeah.
man.
And on one of the biggest shows on TV.
The big eye, and it's in the coolest shows,
Yeah.
and you guys are doing it together, and then other actors that I see right behind you that are in my class and
Yeah.
that I'm coaching,
Isn't
I'm
that
like,
cool? Yeah.
what am I looking at? Like, what am I looking
Yeah,
at?
you're like the go-to Mayans coach, man.
Yeah. Elgin said that to
That's
me
cool.
one time. Who's another cool dude.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go to the glasses on this one. Don't make fun of me.
All right.
All right. So we put on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, possible questions that your fans. First of all, what's it like having fans? It's a trip having fans. I know. It's a
No,
whole
this is gonna
story.
sound really weird, but like sometimes I forget
Yeah.
that I'm on freaking TV
Yeah. And why people
and why people
care about you.
Yeah, yeah. It's still
That's
a,
cool.
Still a
It's a humility that I don't think I can't see you ever losing. I think
Right.
that's just Clay. I
Yeah.
can't see you getting so big that it's like,
yeah.
you know, I just can't see that. But anyway, you do have fans, and they love you, man. So we have about 400. But and 390 of them were like something about dating you. So we're gonna just focus on the
All
10 that have nothing to do with sex or anything like that.
All right.
All right. So how has your mentality shifted as you've become more successful as an actor, and how have you balanced the transition in your personal life?
I expect it now. I don't expect to fail. I expect to be up for big jobs. I expect to be talked about in these circles within directors and producers because, you know, I work that hard and I know what I can deliver. What was the second half of that?
Well, have you balanced the transition in personal? I know you talk about money all the time,
Sure.
but even just like your personal life.
None of
It's a
that's
huge
changed,
transition.
man. You know,
Yeah.
like if you start changing that, then you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Right. Good.
The money was a big thing for me and my
Right.
family. Security.
Right.
You know, being able to help family members. That was huge for me. Me being secure. Me not having to worry about where the next check is coming from.
Yeah.
Me living in an area where I feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was the big transition for me.
Right.
And, you know, and there's more to come. So, you know, we'll see what happens. I balance it by staying true to myself. I still paint almost every day.
And by the way, real quick, are you putting your paintings out there? You're gonna do like a show, a gallery, or something? Because
You know, I've
I
been
love your
asked.
painting.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
I've been asked to do a couple things, but I've been working on this new style, and it takes me about 3 months to finish a piece.
Yeah.
So I'm working on a series right now. I have the sun and the moon, and I'm working on the stars.
Mhm.
So, you know, hopefully eventually I can get to that point.
Yeah, I've always seen that as part of your evolution
Mm.
as an artist. I've always seen that because now you're like, I know that you're inspired by Basquiat,
Yeah.
and I can see like very similar styles, but I've never seen anything like you, like what you put on the canvas. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean,
very unique.
I stole from Basquiat and Banksy a lot. I mean,
Inspired.
whatever. But yeah, I mean, and it helped me figure out my own style.
Right,
You know,
right.
and I think like all art is like that.
Yeah,
You take and then
yeah.
you form, you create your
Exactly.
own. You know, that's art.
Does the character breakdown process change when you book a role that's so large? I know you have a character breakdown, just like you learned originally in the studio, and you know, I always meant it to evolve.
Sure.
So how has it evolved?
See, that has become so automatic. The
Yeah.
character breakdown process, you know, because it's a lot of information, like you have in the binder, right?
Yep.
So, but that information is over time becomes condensed because a lot of that information just becomes automatic. So it's changed in the sense that I don't stress about minute details. You know, I bring as much of Clayton Cardenas to the character until it goes away, like you say. Like
Yeah.
use as much as you can until it doesn't make sense, until it doesn't match
And
anymore.
then you have to create.
And then you have to create. But I don't actually, you know, I honestly, I draw a lot from personal experience. I've lived so much life that something could remind me or feel like whatever I'm trying to portray. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect
Yeah.
sense, man. Every actor has a different experience, but it's always similar to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have that's why I call it the foundation class. You have a foundation the house is gonna be built with the tools that you have, but it's gonna look different every single
Yeah,
time.
yeah, 100%.
This is a question that they actually had for me.
Let's hear it.
All right. So, when was the moment you realized that Clayton had it in him, and did you notice right away? And how does it feel watching him progress? Now, I mean, we did talk about this a little while ago, but and I would love to be able to say I knew right away.
Right.
But with our first experience, it wasn't about acting. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't about acting.
Right.
And there were moments in the studio that I saw. You reminded me of like a young Marlon Brando, a young Montgomery Clift, a young James Dean, where you had that raw sex appeal that you just can't teach. You know, I wasn't about to teach it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't have it, not like you. I mean, I'm all right.
You're all right.
All right, but whatever. So, and that's when I knew it. I knew it when you started getting comfortable in your sex appeal, in your sexuality. Does that make sense?
No, 100%.
Like in like I'm a sexy man.
Yeah.
Like, and that's when I saw it. As far as what is it like watching your progress, man? I mean, it is what I live for. You know, and watching it happen, man, it's why I get up every day. You know, I have a lot of tough days, but that's why. Once I think of that, I'm like, it's not a tough day anymore. You know?
Thank you, man.
Can you talk about the process in which you got the role Angel? Was it like a random audition? Was it a series of auditions?
That was very interesting. I had an agent. You're familiar? My first agent. She told me about 6 months before it was even greenlit. She's like, if the project Mayans ever gets greenlit, you're gonna be in Mayans. She was just that confident, and like. And so she put that momentum in my mind. I'm like, oh shit, if Mayans ever gets made, I'm gonna be in Mayans.
Right.
You know? So Mayans got greenlit. We get the audition breakdown. I see the sides and I'm like, this was meant for me. And I'm thinking in my head, like, what other Latino actor could do this? I was like, it was meant for me. It was fucking meant for me, man. So I go into the audition very confident. I'm like, there's nobody. I do the read. Wendy O'Brien's the casting director. Yeah. Just do one read through of it, and she stops me at the end, and she says, "Where the hell have you been all my life?" and then she's like, "Do you want to read again?" She's like, "Do you want to read?" I was like, no, sure, if you want me to. So I kind of had a good feeling at that. So the next day. I get a call and they're like, Kurt Sutter wants to meet with you. And I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. So I go and, I think he had no idea who I was. I think he was just trying to feel me out to see if I was a normal human being or whatnot. We sat and we chopped it up for about 30, 35 minutes or so. And at the end of the conversation, and we weren't really talking much about the character. We were just talking about myself and my upbringing and my life. So I'm walking out of the room and he says, I like you as Angel. And I didn't understand. I didn't know if that meant I got it or what.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But you weren't reading for Angel.
Yeah, I was reading for Angel.
Right.
I'd already read for Angel.
Right, but you didn't know
I didn't know what he meant by that. So, they called me the next day and they're like, you got the role. But they hadn't cast the other people yet. So I think they made them all sit in a room. From what I hear, and they all had to read, but I already know I had the role. And I knew, I was like, me and Richard are gonna be in, like, it breakdown said Southern California Latinos.
No.
I was like, who else?
Rich is a no-brainer.
That was a no-brainer.
You're a no-brainer. I mean, pretty much the whole cast.
Yeah.
And there they are right there. You remember Nick Marinson, right?
Yeah, that's my guy.
Nick Marinson teaches the foundation class
that's
now
badass.
in the studio.
Badass.
So he told me that every time he's at a Q&A or anytime he meets somebody who has an opportunity, he always asks the same question: what inspires you to be
to do this?
What you do? Yeah.
It's gonna sound really weird, but again, it's a selfish feeling. It feels good. Like it feels good to emote freely, and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's these side effects that happen. People are affected by me emoting. People are inspired. I have kids come up to me saying, man, I have not spoken with my father in 10 years, and when the show came on, this is the first time we've sat together in the room at the same time, and now that started a communication between us.
Wow.
Like those things.
Wow.
But it starts with just me feeling good.
Yeah.
That's it, man. And I don't try to think past that. If I think past that, then I'm like, oh man, I gotta really inspire somebody today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like what we were talking about. It's like you won't even, like, you just happen to speak to someone that told you, man, that's amazing. That they told you that it healed their relationship with their father. Just watching you on TV, just think of the stories that you may never hear and the people that you helped and inspired and changed and maybe even saved. Like, that's the responsibility that we have as artists. Like, I don't think enough actors realize how much of a responsibility that they have.
Right. And you know, I don't put that weight on me though.
Yeah.
I don't put like,
Yeah.
I have this responsibility.
Well, it doesn't serve you to think like that.
Right.
But it doesn't. It also doesn't go away either.
But I do have that understanding now.
Right,
That when I
exactly.
do have these conversations with people saying, you know, talking about these familial bonds that are now being, you know, enhanced or even created because of the show and because of what they feel from, you know, my heart.
Well, what a lot of people say, you say the bonds, in particular this show, the ethnicity of the show, like what, 95% Latino.
Yeah.
Is it something like
Yeah, it's
that?
like 96, 7.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Minute
there was
details.
never a show like this. And nowadays with diversity, I mean, this is very important for you guys to succeed, because now you guys are trailblazers for the next generation of not only just actors, but Latino actors.
Right.
And again, I don't want to put, it's the same thing with not putting too much weight on your shoulders, but at the same time, this is what diversity is all about. A show like this is you know, it's very important for the future.
Sure. I mean, again, like, you know, I was telling you earlier, when you see little yous,
Yeah.
you know, little dudes that look just like you,
Yeah.
saying, you know, thank you, and
Right.
for, you know, that I didn't even know that was. I mean, I had the feeling, but you don't know it until it's brought to
It's
your
right in
attention.
front of your
So it's
face.
right in front of your face.
And the cool thing about that is that there's a young Latino boy that's from the same neighborhood or a similar neighborhood that, instead of looking up to the people that are doing the wrong thing,
Right.
they have someone else to look up to that is doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and their path will change. I mean, that's how we make a difference in this world. And again, not to put too much pressure. All you really have to do is yourself and keep on doing what you're doing. But I'm telling you, you change the trajectory of somebody's lives, you know, and it's like, look, now you start saying, wow, now you start having a young man or a young woman in their teens, in their 20s, that have an addiction, that are from the same neighborhoods, that look like you, that say, wow, man, I heard Clayton had a similar problem and he fought his way through it and he's still fighting his way through it and he's successful. Maybe I could do that too. You know, if he could get his life together, maybe I could do that too. And you know, he looks like me, you know, my hair is just like his and you know, and maybe I could do that.
Right.
Can I do that? You see how you said earlier that being an artist and being an actor was frowned upon the way you grew up.
Right.
But because of you, it's not going to be as frowned upon in those neighborhoods and in those households. You know, they'll say like, wow, man, I could be like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. So if you're cool, then they're going to want to be like you.
And you're right. You know, hopefully I passed the baton. You know, for me, it happened with Richard when I first saw him in A Better Life.
You were in a position, you saw him on TV, and what did you say?
I realized that if somebody from where I came from that grew up in the same circumstances as me, if he can be an actor, like, oh, that's even a thing?
Yeah.
I didn't think that was a possibility,
Right.
you know? So
Yeah.
hopefully I can have that effect on somebody else.
Exactly. And then the universe puts you guys together. You can
Right.
walk into an acting class
There
and
he
he's
is.
there. That must have been a trip for you,
That
man.
blew my mind. I was so nervous to tell him that story for maybe a month.
But you told him that
I
story?
ended up telling him the story, and he basically told me to hang out with him every day.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
this is my life.
I want to thank you. I know you've been busy. I know that every chance you get, you come back to class and just talk and have them feel your presence, and you know, it's an inspiring thing. I just want to thank you for that, man.
I appreciate
it. Like you said, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
You hear me say the best is yet to come. That's not just a slogan. That's a real thing,
Right.
you know?
Well, no, I appreciate you always keeping the door open for me, and I know this is my church whenever I come to it, in a sense, right? But no, I always like asking you who's your next young hot shot. You know, I like, you know, because I want to see who those people are, and then I'll go talk to them.
Yeah.
You know, so and I like seeing the new talent, and I like. You know, I remember being that.
Yeah.
I remember being them. I remember having those thoughts and those feelings. So it's cool. It's a kind of a nostalgic feeling to come back. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And the love I have for you, man, I can never put in words properly.
I love you, man.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.